Okay, so in this video we're going to do a couple of problems of taking derivatives that contain trigonometric functions. So first we've got to know these derivative formulas. The derivative of sine is cosine, the derivative of cosine is minus sine, and so on and so forth. So we've got to know those. So notice this particular problem we're going to end up using the product rule because we have the product of two quantities. And here we'll use the quotient rule because we have quotient or a fraction of two quantities. So the derivative, we know the product rule. It's the first function, e to the x, times the derivative of the second function. Well, the derivative of sine is cosine, and the derivative of cosine is minus sine. Let me write this as a minus sine x. So that's the first times the derivative of the second. Plus we have the second, sine x plus cosine x, times the derivative of the first. Well, the derivative of e to the x is e to the x. Let's simplify this a little bit because it looks like a couple things might cancel. So the derivative is e to the x cosine x minus e to the x sine x plus e to the x sine x plus e to the x cosine x. And now we can see e to the x sine x and negative e to the x sine x. That adds up to 0. E to the x cosine plus e to the x cosine is 2 e to the x cosine. So the derivative is 2 times e to the x times cosine x. So that is the derivative of this first problem. Now we'll do the derivative of the second one. So again, we got to use the quotient rule. So the derivative, I think of this as the bottom function, 1 plus tangent, times the derivative of the top. Well, the derivative of secant is secant times tangent. So we have the bottom times the derivative of the top. The derivative of secant is secant times tangent. Well, I want to run out of room here. Let me erase this so I can... So this is the bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom. Well, the derivative of any constant is 0. The derivative of tangent is secant squared. So we have the bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom. The derivative of 1 is 0. The derivative of tangent is secant squared. And that is all over the bottom function, quantity squared. So let me this is our answer. I mean, that is the derivative, but it does look like things might cancel a little bit. So let me multiply this. Secant tangent times 1 is secant tangent. Secant tangent times tangent is secant times tangent squared minus secant cubed all over 1 plus tangent quantity squared. Now, I don't know if this simplifies much more. Well, I'm going to leave it like this. Yeah, it looks like there's a secant in all the terms that we can factor out. But this is good enough. So that's the derivative of this particular problem that is a quotient that contains trig functions.